Hey, it says I'm live. What's happening? Robert Phoenix back again under the tree of knowledge on Sunday Night AstroLive. And we're going to be talking astrology here for the next 90 minutes, maybe a little bit longer than that, depending on how long the muses will be with us this evening. There's a lot to cover tonight. Obviously, every day is a brand new wrinkle in the drama of humanity, especially here in the United States. Perhaps not so much in other countries, although I don't think the rest of the world gets to escape the theater, the show. We got Jonas in the house, and right after her, Jennifer Rubin tag teaming. There's a William Hurt connection right there. Leanne, hey Leanne, Dawn Hart, the lovely Dawn Hart, animal rescuer in the house. What's going on? We got Lillis, or Lils. Hi, Lils. Good to see you. Julianne, Joan W., the other Joan. Hi, Julianne. Welcome to the show. DK, what's happening, DK? I'm so tired of 2020, man. 2020 is not for wimps, is it? It is not for wimps. We got Liz Atwell. Hey, Liz, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Joe Mama, of course. She's here. Judy Anderson. Hello, Judy. FUP77. Tamara Garth. Tamara, I sent you your recording earlier. If you haven't checked your email, you may want to look for that. My mom is good. My mom is rocking it. She's doing great. Soleil in the house. I got a good mom story to share with you. Christy Tesmerk. There she is. Hi, Christy. Sandra Ripto. What's going on, Sandra? Steve Mercer. Thor by the door. Good to see you, Steve. Hope you're having a good weekend. Ani Brito, look at that. They're just tagged. They're right there, one after the other. Boom, boom. We got sequential happenings here in the 11th house tonight. Evan Taylor. Hey, Evan. Hope you're enjoying the fireflies up there in that great northern part of this country, because I know there's fireflies there. I used to see them when I used to go to Wisconsin every now and then. Dawn is happy to be here. We're happy to have you. Let's see. Lady Zaga. Hey, there's Lynn. What's happening, Lynn? Good to see you, Miss Feliz. Maury D in the house. Hi there, all. Everything's smooth over here tonight. There's Frank Bry. What's happening, Frank? Good to see you. Welcome. Let's see. Yeah, we talk about 4th of July tonight. Some shit happened last night. And there's some stuff happening now, because we're still in the eclipse phase. So we can talk about some of those things. The Floridian wrench is in the house. That's right. Yeah, that's right. The Floridian hit squad in the house. Don't mess with them. Jan. Fireflies in Ohio tonight. Oh, cool. I love me some fireflies. We got them here in Texas. Don't see them as much. I think you have to go to Wimberley or someplace like that. I saw a lot in Wimberley when I was in Wimberley. Hey, Darren, what's happening, man? I sent you your reading too, by the way. It's that day. Good firefly action in West North. Fireflies are special, aren't they? Hi, Renee. There's Michael, DJ MC. Isn't it just cool when you're a kid? Like the first time you get to see fireflies. It's like, wow. You remember all the cool stuff you used to experience when you were a kid? Like picking up a rock and just seeing what was under the rock. Kind of the under the rock world out in the field. Sometimes you might find a salamander, and that was like a really big thing. That was the stuff from childhood. It's a real commodity, and we have, most of us have totally lost the plot on that. But I think there are some people that are in chat and watching this that still have a pretty evolved sense of discovery and innocence. But I feel for the kids of our world. They don't have that. Their world is much more simulated and much more artificial, versus looking into that universe that's living on the other side of a rock. And I feel for them in a lot of ways. And now the poor kids can't even go outside. I mean, it's kind of interesting, right? Because when you look at this whole thing with coronavirus, we're getting a lot of good feedback on the fireflies. A good firefly year. Hi, Mary. Good to see you. Receipt City. Yeah, frogs, salamanders. I mean, come on now. It didn't get much better than that. Do you remember the sense of discovery when you found a lizard, like Like I kept an alligator lizard in a coffee can for a couple of days. I'm sure he didn't appreciate it, but I didn't do anything, torturous to that alligator lizard. I set him loose. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see what's happening with the elderly, what they're doing in these nursing homes, and boy, it's really terrible. The horror stories of what's happening in these nursing homes. Nobody can see the elderly. You go down the really dark rabbit hole, and it really looks like these nursing homes in New York are like the killing fields. That's what it's starting to feel like. I mean, there are a lot of interviews with nurses and sort of nursing home confessionals where it's very clear that what's taking place in these nursing homes is nothing short of murder. I mean, that's out there, and you can cruise through YouTube and you could find it. You can find a lot of stuff that will correlate with that, and it's not great. It's really not great. It almost feels like they're practicing a form of eugenics and genocide in these nursing homes. And I know people who have parents in these nursing homes, and they can't even see them. Okay, they have to drive by and wave, at the window. I mean, how fucked up is that? It's terrible. So we have that group, and then we have this young group whose youth and innocence just completely snatched away from them. Completely snatched away. Like, I've got a kid and he's 16 years old. He's got his own issues. He's growing up very fast right now. I think in a good way, in a positive way. But I'm glad that he was born when he was born, because we got to have a lot of experiences that it just wouldn't be happening. I mean, they would be happening with me. Let's just be clear about that, right? They'd be happening with me, but it'd be harder because of the things that we did together with other kids and groups, like playing baseball, which it has kind of resumed in some ways, and it kind of hasn't, and it depends on, again, like who, what are two parents agreeing on? There could be one parent says, hey, it's not so bad, let's let the kid play. And the other parent says, oh, this is terrible. And, he's got to wear masks and that whole drama. And, working that out and sorting that out is not always easy. There's a lot of compromise that's made during marriages, which is really, really the most critical decision that you could ever make is who you're going to be with. Like, that's really, really critical. And I was watching some Jordan Peterson 2 days ago. And, I think Jordan Peterson is really good for certain things. Like everybody says, well, Jordan Peterson dodges the J question. And he does. He really does. He dodges the J question. And yet there are still some good things about Jordan Peterson that are applicable. I mean, you'll find things with people who will be, okay, well, they don't do this or they don't do that, but they may have 80% or 90% of something that's actually valuable. So do you cut out that other, say, 20% where they don't go to the wall? And I think that there's a lot to be said for being able to pick something and pick certain things from certain people where they can be applicable to your life for a period of time and can be very useful and good tools. And then you may outgrow them. You may get to another point where all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I've outgrown this person, or I've outgrown this system, or I've outgrown this kind of point of view or perspective in teaching, and then you move on. So I'm, when I saw that, and I've been a little tough on Jordan Peterson at times, but I do think he does he brings some good things to the conversation. And I saw him do a kind of a dissertation on relationship and marriage with these two women, and it's called Femsplaining. And it was I think the show's called Femsplaining. It's a very interesting show, and he really gets into the dynamics of relationships and brilliant stuff. He's got that he's a Gemini. He's got that quick mercurial Gemini mind. So he says exactly what I'm saying, is that the person that you're with will be one of the most important choices and decisions you will ever make. And he gets into the whole notion of romantic love and all these things. And it's actually really good. I highly recommend it. But that's why it's such an important decision, and what happens is that we're not even really fully formed when we make these really intense life choices. Like, we're in our 20s, and generally when we do these things, I kind of was the first time, and then the second time I clearly wasn't. But when we're young and we make these choices, and by the way, people are making less and less of these choices now because they've seen sort of the battlefields of their own family or their own marriage with their parents, and it's like, wow, maybe I should pump the brakes on this, or, and I don't even know what it would be like to be engaged in a level of intimacy as a young person these days. I have no idea. But anyway, that said, if indeed we still retain this kind of monogamous and nuclear family, which I think is a pretty good thing. It's not for everybody. I'm not really sure if it's for every culture, by the way, and I'll be clear about that. But if it's right for you and it's right for your specific group, I think it's a good thing. The problem is that we have really kind of lost the plot around what's important. And I think if we distill everything and maybe we spend about 20 minutes, we can probably figure out what those important things are. But we've lost the plot. And we've lost the plot in terms of how we aggregate, congregate, and who we do it with. And then this kind of inclusion and infusion of these influences coming in from the so-called outer world, which are bombarding us all the time. And not always easy to navigate, through the plethora of these influences. We're going to talk about viruses tonight. We're going to talk about coronavirus and a very interesting correlation as it relates to coronavirus, and what I think is actually, not actually, but I think it's another kind of node or module that's part of what we're going through. So yeah, it's an important decision, because when you have two people that are on the same page, you could both say, hey, look, we're going to not vaccinate little Johnny or little Janie. Oh, gee, that's a really important decision. Yeah, we're going to stand by that decision no matter what. Or we're not going to circumcise little Johnny, and we're not going to get the little Janie the HPV vaccine. And, these are the types of things that we feel that are valuable for our child to learn. And those values may be on, the contrary to what the dominant paradigm says is important. Dominant paradigm says now that children must be engaged in value-based learning. But that doesn't really create an individual. That creates somebody who's more geared, managed, and programmed towards consensus and being involved in this idea of the greater good. So society as we see it now is not in the process of creating individuals. They don't want individuals. That's one of the reasons why there's no sports, by the way. Sports is an aspect of individual performance and excellence. And look, I'm kind of over the NBA. I've been over the NBA for a while. I'm definitely over the NFL now. They're just shark jumping like crazy. And I used to really love Major League Baseball. It was my first sport. It's just a crime that minor league baseball is not around this year. Minor league baseball is one of the greatest things you can do during the summertime. And I know there are people who live in Asheville, North Carolina, and they've got a great ballpark there, a great crowd. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of beer drinking, a lot of microbrews, in the area, microbreweries in the area. And it's really affordable. You could go out to a minor league baseball game, AA, single A. You probably spend about, family of 3 or 4 with tickets, maybe spend about $100 for 4 people. Where can you do that and get about 2.5 hours of entertainment? You just can't. It's impossible. So we're not able to see these really tremendous kind of individual, and there's the word, individual performances. They're not there. They're not there at all. So they'll reboot them at some point, because the team thing is probably a big part of where they want to steer this new paradigm, but it'll be different. And they won't create the potential for new sports until coaches are retrained. And I've already seen that. I get these little newsletters every now and then from these places I used to subscribe to when I was doing coaching, and it's already happening. They're already kind of reimagining what coaching is and all this bullshit. And look, I've seen some bad coaches. Don't get me wrong. I've run across bad coaches. I've run across coaches who were good, decent people, but didn't understand the dynamics of putting a team together and getting the best out of the team. So they weren't bad people, and they weren't necessarily bad coaches, but they weren't optimal coaches either. And I saw a lot of it. I saw a lot of in between stuff too. So I learned, when I was a kid growing up, when I was playing baseball, I paid attention to my coaches. And my very first coach was a great coach, and I paid attention to what he did and how he worked with the players. And I think it was 10 years old, and I was a pretty good player. And I had this awareness of like being much older than I was at 10. And I was playing shortstop, and there's a kid on second base, and I knew what to do if the ball was hit to me. So this kid hits me a ball, I pick it up, and I knew that this kid was just going to run. Like, he didn't really have to run, but I knew he was going to run. So I tagged him, and I just threw a blazing strike to the first baseman, who was Eric Anderson, who was a good friend of mine. Eric and I became buddies. And he got in his glove, and he dropped it. I'm like, fuck. That was a double play, man. I was pissed. It was like, man, I saw this thing coming, dude, and you dropped my double play. And the coach saw that I was being a little jerk, and he put me on the bench. He put me on the bench. He said, I guess I was, what was I Bob or Bobby? I don't know what I was back then. You're sitting. He says, don't ever do that again. He said, it was his mistake. Don't ever make somebody else feel bad about their mistake. I'm like, oh, okay. It was a good lesson. Eric and I became buddies. We were really, really good friends. And again, this is one of those things that, the time that we're in, just it does not allow for this kind of connectivity. Eric was so-called, Black African-American kid, sweet guy, really sweet guy. So we were buddies for a while. We played baseball. We were buddies. And then he left. He went away somewhere. And then eventually he came back to high school, and he started to go back to the high school that I was going to. I think it might've been a senior, and he was a junior, and he got way into like progressive rock and stuff. And he liked the ganj. And he was really into the progressive rock thing. It was like, wow, man, that's crazy. And I knew about the bands that he was into, but it was just such a weird time travel thing. Like, I hadn't seen Eric for years. He shows up, he's the same sweet guy, but now he's like into PFM and Up and all these crazy obscure prog rock bands. So then I wound up moving again. I moved this time, and I ran into him at a Talking Heads concert in San Francisco, and we hung out. We had a great time, and then I think we might have stayed in touch a little bit, but we kind of like just sort of faded after that. But again, it's like one of these. This time is just it just blows apart those kinds of relationships. Just blows them apart. It's much harder now to have those kinds of bonds. And I think I did tell him about when he dropped the ball. He remembered it too. He knew I was pissed at him. But man, he was an incredible athlete, this guy. He was really incredible. We did some pitch hit and throw stuff, and he could throw a baseball a long way. Long way. If he had stayed with sports, Eric was a guy that could have been really, really, really successful. Really successful. His brother was very talented and gifted. Didn't fare as well as Eric did. Anyway, Eric, if you're out there, man, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're tripping the light fantastic. All right, let's get into a little invocation here. Okay. Dear blessed and holy Father, Mother God of the great central sun, which is the universal light, which is the light of Sananda, Emmanuel, we ask that only the highest and best information come through at this time for this channel. And we also ask that we are blessed with courage and strength and faith and heart and humor and flexibility and empathy and compassion and purpose to live our life in these times with a spirit of fearlessness and courage. We also ask that any karmic residue be cleansed, purified, clarified, and removed from this stream now and until it is over and complete, and then beyond. So be it. Okay, let's get rocking and rolling. Let's get into it. There's a lot happening. There is a lot going on right now, and I don't even know where to start. All right, why don't I start here? Okay. So there's a real interesting, this is an interesting moment in time, because the so-called Black community, right, is having this really interesting moment of consciousness. It's a very interesting moment of consciousness. No matter what you think of it, right, it's an interesting moment of consciousness. And, I've been talking about how there's this awakening period or this awakening phase that we get to whenever Saturn moves into Aquarius and seems to get hijacked, right? It seems to get hijacked. And now it feels like the demonstration of this is really occurring, because what we're seeing is this like massive kind of collective awakening, with this so-called black race or black culture. But when you look at it, it is not like, how do I say this? It is not all unified. It is not joined at the hip. It is not the same thing. Right? There are groups that are looking to have a different kind of experience, a different kind of how do I say this, title or claim to whatever kind of like awakening or level of consciousness that's opening. So you have the Black Lives Matter movement, and we've drilled down into that, and it has its roots in social Marxist theory, and that the women who are in charge of Black Lives Matter are highly trained, highly skilled social Marxists. They are kind of the new version of the Highlander School, which is where Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King were trained. Barack Obama, by the way, has a kind of a secret history or not so secret history of actually being trained in Moscow. When you see him with Medvedev, they are very familiar with each other. They are very, very familiar. They know each other. And how well they know each other, I don't know. But they know each other, right? Why do they know each other? Because I think Obama was schooled in the Soviet Union. And this is kind of interesting, too, because it's one of those things that, there's this whole kind of Russian collusion with Trump and everything. But if you drill down to Obama, you would find that there would be some connection, right? There would be some connection. Well, why and how? Well, Frank Marshall Davis, a person very close to Obama, was a total Marxist, and he was part of CPUSA. So CPUSA had relationships with the Soviet Union, and through Frank Marshall Davis, no doubt he had these connections, and no doubt at some point, I believe he spent some time in the former Soviet Union. And in fact, there's a story on the internet that talks about this and talks about it in a pretty interesting kind of way. So I think if you really wanted to drill down deep enough, you would find Russian collusion with Obama. I don't think it might be a little harder now, but you could put some pieces together. Just look at the pictures with him and Medvedev. They are very, very familiar. Very, very familiar. Okay, so this is the BLM side of things. They want a socialist revolution. They want to burn it all down, which is what the socialists do. They want to burn everything down. They want to take the statues down. They want to pull a Gene Sharp color revolution. And in those revolutions, right, there's always a group that is vilified and castigated, and they're the group that is going to be the sacrificial energy. They're going to be the bonfire. And we know who the group has been targeted to be now. And it's not very pretty. It's descending into levels now that are, how do I say this? Depressing, sad, tragic. You just take a step back and you go, we're humans. What the fuck are we doing? Are we just programmed? Maybe you are programmed robots, but we're humans. What are we doing here? It's not great. We're operating out of this, really heavy script, and people don't even know it. And that's the sad part. So we have that group right there. In fact, I saw them. I think they're doing a talk in LA, and they were schooling liberals on how even though you're liberal, you're a closet white supremacist. Of course, they're just going to break the liberals down into the just, sniveling piles of goo. Just break them down till they're sniveling piles of goo, and then you could do anything with them at that point. So that's one group, right? But there are other groups that have nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. I'm sure some of you saw these guys who were toting their rifles around Stone Mountain, Georgia. NFAC. This is another group, right? It's a whole other group. And I've been on NFAC's Twitter feeds. Let me tell you, man, those are some very heavy Twitter feeds. And they have an agenda. And their agenda is there are 12 tribes. And they want to take out each and every one of these 12 tribes. It's very, very different than Black Lives Matter. So they'll say, and they even said that we know Black Lives Matter bullshit, right? Their goal is, hey, we want reparations and we want the state of Texas, right? I mean, that's their goal, but it's not a Black Lives Matter thing. And then you have the Black Hebrew Israelites who are of a whole other trip going on, maybe a little bit similar than the NFAC, but maybe not. You have the 5%ers, and then you have the Bloods and the Crips who were kicking Black Lives Matter and Antifa out of Long Beach. So there are all these things happening in that community, and they're not all the same, although perhaps there are threads that run through them. And then let's throw in the Nation of Islam, right? And so there's this whole thing going on, but it's not the only thing. It's their version of the thing, right? There are other versions of the thing that that's happening, because consciousness is not exclusive. It is not exclusive. It's not exclusive at all. So I understand this. And I feel like there are people across all this different spectra that are having this moment in time, this awakening, and we are awakening because, look, whatever you think about these various groups, and I have opinions on each one of them kind of separately, but what I will say is that on some level, the reason why they're able to flourish, or at least begin to flourish, is because there are issues. And they may not be the same issues that they are using or referring to in order to form kind of the psychic driver for their own kind of liberation, their liberation and deliverance. But there are issues. There are certainly issues that are part and parcel of the world that we're in right now, and particularly this country. And if there weren't issues, I don't think they would be able to flourish in the way that they are. And I'm not saying that those issues are the same thing. They're related in some ways. It's an underlying kind of vulnerability to the immune system. This is what's happening. So I feel like we're getting a demonstration of this in some ways, because there is something there. There is something real. But often when there's something real, there's a major misdirection to cover up the thing that's actually the deep wound. And I'm gonna kind of get into that a little bit tonight. I'm gonna try to explicate that, and I'm gonna give you some examples, some very, very, very clear examples of what I think is going on. And maybe I'll just kind of start there at the beginning and try to go along with this. But we're in this time where we're opening to consciousness, and in a big way, and a consciousness that is related to truth. And I think there are a lot of people who are, how do I say this, abusing the moment. Let's put it that way. They're abusing and manipulating the moment, and for a very, very specific purpose. So what is that? I think there are a number of these purposes as we head into what's called the reset, because of course this is what the World Economic Forum has been talking about, and we brought it up here 2 weeks ago, especially in the light of the astrological symbolism vis-a-vis Gemini, right? And this is what they called it, right? They were using the twin reset, and they were using these two kinds of meetings in order to launch this kind of new reality into Agenda 21 land. Which and again, if you talk to those guys in NFAC, that's not the world that they want to live in. I can tell you that right now. Like, their goal is, hey man, we want some land, we want reparations, we want our own nation inside of this nation. That has very little to do with Agenda 21, as far as I can see. Okay. And that's the plan. So I don't know if they know about Agenda 21, or they think that they're going to be able to overpower Agenda 21. Maybe that'd be awesome, right? That'd be great. You go take care of Agenda 21, and let's talk about the land thing, or who knows, right? I mean, but these are these threads. Now, I do believe that Black Lives Matter and the social Marxists and Antifa, who are connected to climate change, are much more engaged in the Agenda 21 program. I think that's what they're there for, and to move us very, very quickly into that. But there is something else going on. We are in the reset, and there's also, I think, something. Well, when you think of the reset is huge, and we're not that far away. I'm telling you, like, there are things happening right now with money and the economy. This is not headed in a good direction because of the coronavirus, and the coronavirus is a major salvo against the United States and the Western world. Major salvo, and it's not one that's really. It's terrible. It's really terrible, and I had a few moments, over the last few days, just walking into stores. I went into HEB last night without a mask here in Fredericksburg. And no problem. No problem. Just walked in, got my stuff. Nobody messed with me. Nobody talked with me. I checked out. Boom. There it was. Okay. So it's been interesting having my mom here because I've been playing her Tim Pool on YouTube. And like Tim Pool is kind of reaching my mother. He's so rational. He's so rational that what and the thing I love about Tim Pool, he's not hyperbolic. He's calm, he's rational, he's steady, he makes great points. So not that I did it intentionally because I actually like Tim Pool, but I've been playing Tim Pool. My mother has been listening, okay? And she has made this amazing shift. I swear to God, it's crazy with like the shift that she's been making. I've been telling her about stuff, but I haven't been hitting her with the red pill laser beam. I have not been doing that, but I've been telling her some stuff. So she saw me go into HEB last night without a mask. And so then today we went to this store down the road. It's a very cool place. And it's called Yeehaw. And we went in there and didn't wear a mask. She didn't wear a mask either. Like this was a major thing, right? She'd been super mask attached since she got here. And inside that store, they don't wear masks either. So we had a little bit of a discussion around it, and it was really interesting. So, my mom is kind of like waking up a little bit here. See what I mean? You see what I mean? This is the time that we're living in right now. And I've not always had a really solid relationship with my mother. I've not. I mean, she just was not very emotionally available for me growing up because she worked 40 hours a week and she was dog tired and she just, just a different kind of life. But now she is. She's now we made a major shift and now she is waking up, right? She's seeing things. She's kind of, the veil is being lifted off of her 82-year-old eyes. And if it can happen to her, I think there's some hope here. The problem is now is that we've been turned against each other. And I have a theory about this. And it's not just this reset, which is a big part of it. My theory is that they're getting very close, getting really close to popping this Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein thing. And I've been I was looking at Maxwell's chart today, and I was doing a little bit of research. Oh, here's one of my stinging friends. Hi, stinging friend. So the Maxwell thing is very, very interesting. One of the things that's happened now is that a judge has ordered that all the evidence be destroyed with all the claimants. Like, how does this happen, and why does it happen? How and why does this happen? This is a fact. Like, there's a judge, I think her name is Loretta Preska. She said all the evidence between the claimants and Maxwell and Epstein need to be destroyed. I'm like, holy shit. This is burying this thing. This is totally burying this thing. So now they got Ghislaine Maxwell. And if that evidence is destroyed, they have no case. They have no case whatsoever. None of the Epstein stuff was ever unsealed, and it could have been. It could have been. But now we have Ghislaine Maxwell, and you know that they've got reams of evidence in Ghislaine Maxwell. Reams. And now we have a judge saying, burn it all. And not only did she say that, but she wants to have proof. Like, you got to have proof that you destroyed this stuff. And I don't know how, what is it? It's erasing on a computer, smashing, maybe they should hire Hillary Clinton to destroy it. I think that'd probably be the best thing. Just hire Hillary Clinton to come in. Oh, I'm sure she'd be happy to do that, to destroy all that shit. Right? So it's not just Maxwell. Look, I think we're talking, this is big stuff, man. Like the Epstein stuff is really, really big. The Epstein stuff could take governments down, could take countries down. Really powerful, really, really powerful people. Really super powerful people. The royal family, the Clintons, any number of congressmen, business people, senators, ex-presidents, right, in the United States. You've got Israel, you've got the Mossad, because likely a Mossad operation in conjunction with the CIA. And look, I'm going to say a name here, and you have to like wrap your head around it. There's Donald Trump, because Donald Trump was a longtime friend. He knew Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell for 8 years. Okay, 8 years. So was Trump, and Trump was on the Lolita Express. Now, at some point, Trump and Epstein broke up. Now, there are people that'll say, yeah, Trump didn't go there. He did, he was too smart. He knew he would be president someday or something like that. And so he didn't go down that 14-year-old, 13-year-old rabbit hole. And there are other people that say, oh yeah, of course he did. And there are some people say that it was even worse than just, having an illegal affair with a minor. But whether he did or he didn't, he's connected to a lot of very, very powerful people that he's been friends with and is currently friends with, including one Alan Dershowitz. And Dershowitz has been the key driver to get this evidence destroyed. Like, Dershowitz is doing everything in his power because Dershowitz has the videos. So if all the evidence is destroyed, he's the guy now that has the sole proprietorship of the Epstein-Maxwell stuff. It's Dershowitz. So here's a really interesting little tidbit. Do you know what Jeffrey Epstein's nickname was when he was living in Florida? The Virus. That's what his nickname was. Jeffrey Epstein's nickname was the Virus, because there was a woman who was the wife of somebody who was a friend of Epstein, and she said Epstein infects everybody around him. Think about that. His nickname is the Virus. And what are we dealing with? We're dealing with this coronavirus. So here's what I think. I think that the coronavirus is many things. It is many things. But one of the things that I think it's a cover for is the Epstein stuff. That's what I think. I think it's a major. So here's what they want to do. They want to burn all those records, right? Because what would happen if they found out? What would happen if people found out who was involved, what occurred, all the different connections and the depth, right? It wasn't just they were, having sex with these minors. There was a lot of other stuff going on. I mean, there was blackmail, there was extortion. Jeffrey Epstein had this whole weird kind of eugenics trip going on. I mean, there's a lot of really high strange here. So now we have the coronavirus. And one of the things that the coronavirus has done is that you cannot really, it's very hard to meet with the courts now. They're doing some stuff, I guess, via Zoom or whatever. But the court stuff is very, very difficult. It's hard. The courts are by and large slow, unless, of course, they want to fast track somebody, get them off the streets. In which case, they're like Quicksilver. But generally speaking, the court process is a slow one. And now with this virus, it's making it even slower in a lot of ways. So is the coronavirus, which is, I think, a force multiplier across a number of different factors that we're dealing with, is the coronavirus partially running cover for what's going on with Epstein and Maxwell? Because think about this, right? We had Epstein get picked up, and then there's this whole thing about Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. He didn't kill himself. Certainly looks like he certainly didn't kill himself. Certainly didn't look like anybody else killed him. So my theory, it has been for a while, that Epstein was extracted. He was pulled out, and he's out there somewhere. That's my theory. That is my theory. Perhaps somebody who knows a lot of Q code or whatever may have a differing theory, but he's out there. They pulled him out of circulation. And I don't know what they're going to do with Maxwell, but she basically, I think she made a deal. I mean, that's the word, because she was in a place of non-extradition. She was in France. She's born in France, by the way, non-extradition, and she made a deal. So why did she make a deal? And if you look at the specific charges against her, it's only for a very brief period of time. It's only for like about a three-year period or 4-year period. And she was involved in this thing from the get-go, right? Not just a brief period of time. So why are they targeting that period of time? What specifically are they doing? Now, this is another interesting wrinkle here. So is this a case of Maxwell being lined up and set up to use against Trump? Like, that is a potential outcome here. Like, is Maxwell sort of the nuclear bomb So let's say we get through all the quote unquote race stuff or whatever, and then we get through whatever the hammer blow of the coronavirus is, and that as they approach the Republican convention, are they going to bring up the Ghislaine Maxwell thing? I think it's something to think about. Is this going to be the final thing that they're going to use to take down Trump? Because what will happen is that if all the evidence is destroyed, number one, that's going to be really hard to do. Number two, if they're only targeting about 3 or 4 years with Maxwell, that means that they're not targeting all those other years where other people can be brought in. That would include people like Prince Andrew and the Clintons and any number of celebrities and luminaries, including probably Alan Dershowitz, Ehud Barak, all these other people. They're like outside of that small window, which actually says it on the court documents. So what is the real purpose of bringing her in now? That is, I think, the big piece. But I also feel like the coronavirus is part of another thing, right, to cover up what's going on with kind of the Epstein world. And and I think it's interesting that his nickname just happened to be the virus. And what are we dealing with? We're dealing with the virus, which is just completely taking a wrecking ball to the economy. One of the things that I've been following the supply chain. It's not really the supply chain. It's just what you can get in stores and not get in stores. So I was reading a report of what's available in places like Walmart, H-E-B, and Costco in Mexico, and they're stocked. They have everything there. Everything. You want to get a bicycle, you want to get a motorcycle, you want to get a washer or dryer, you want to get a refrigerator, you go to Mexico. They've got them. Apparently, Canada is not suffering a supply shortage either. Couple that with the fact that there are numerous, and I mean numerous, department stores that are liquidating. They're liquidating their products, and they're not reordering. They are not reordering. So this is a big deal, because if we have our neighbors to the south and our neighbors to the north, are they getting our goods, or are they getting just a rapid supply? I don't think the supply chain is broken in China now. I think they're making things. They're manufacturing things. We're just not getting them. And why are these major department stores not refilling their shelves? I think it's an important question to ask. And there's some astrological stuff there that we could kind of plunge into, and we will. All right, so I feel like there's something big going on with the coronavirus stuff as it relates to this Epstein case. So what I want to do is I want to bring up Ghislaine Maxwell's chart, because I'm not sure if we completely looked at it before, but it might bear worth looking at here. I'm also going to look at Kanye West's chart. Of course, Kanye West is going to run for president. That's the Democrats' worst nightmare. Kanye West running for president. They're pissed, man. They're totally pissed. Okay, hold on. Let me get back to Maxwell's chart. Okay, I'm not going to go for like a huge period of time now because my mom's in the other room. She's leaving on Tuesday. So let me bring up her chart. And we got a good time on her chart too. She's got a AA time. So let's get into this. Where are we? There it is, right there. Okay. Oh, no, that's not it. That's not the chart I want. I mean, it's a chart, but not the one I want, because I have my own customized chart. Give me a second. There we go. Bada bing. All right. So we see that she is a Gemini rising, which of course places Donald Trump's sun right in her first house. Also places his moon in her 7th house. His eclipse moon is conjunct her Venus. That's a relationship. I'm just telling you. You can do with it what you want. Oh, look at that. Her Venus is conjunct my Jupiter. Wow. That's interesting. I wonder if Ghislaine Maxwell and I would have a connection there by Jupiter conjunct her Venus. Yeah, well, it's too late to find out, and I wouldn't want to anyway. All right, so here we go. Gemini rising, And what is she? She is a spy. Her father was a spy. She's got some really powerful intelligence elements with Gemini on the ascendant and the sun and Mercury in the eighth house. People that have Mercury in the eighth house, guess what they are? They are secret keepers. Secret keepers. Mercury in the eighth. They don't tell things. And guess what we have here? We have these first degrees of Capricorn. So we're dealing with power. She dealt with powerful people and she put them into an eighth house situation. Look at that. Look at that. Now she's coming through a very vulnerable time. Now, I don't know why she made this deal, but I can tell you it didn't happen overnight. And they've been in negotiation with this thing for a while, probably, I'd say going back to after maybe the first of the year, maybe sometime in March, April. And that south node hitting her Mars. That would have been right around, what was that, June 20th, right? At 0 Cancer, which would have been right over here with that eclipse. So that eclipse sun at 0 Cancer was opposing her natal Mars. And at that time, that south node, like 1 degree off. So there was something here. Something was going on behind the scenes in her chart. And there's something. So maybe it has something to do with the fact that they were getting ready to completely skewer her. Maybe that's what it was about. And that she's made a deal. This is what I'm thinking. That she's made a deal and she's going to turn. She's going to turn on somebody. And I think she's been indemnified. I think all this happened prior to this moment in time, but the real trigger was that eclipse on the 20th of June. And what are we at? We're out like 15 days, 2 weeks from there. Okay. So now the south node is going through her 7th house, which is relationship. And it's going to obviously hit her Venus by the end of September, which is conjunct the galactic center, by the way. That's going to be a very, very interesting time for Ms. Maxwell. Now, the true node, conversely, will be in her 1st house in Gemini. So this is interesting. And the Venus retrograde also was a part of this decision-making process because it was retrograding all the way back into her 12th house to 5 degrees, 4 degrees. So now it's moving forward and she's going to have Venus in her 1st house and the true node in her 1st house. So even though she may be having a difficult time with the law, or she may be having to deal with potentially ratting people out, right, in relationship over here with the south node in the 7th house. This is the true node in the 1st, is the ability to be nimble and to do things and to kind of edit reality. So this is a very interesting period for her. And even when Venus moves into the 1st house, now she theoretically is in jail, and this is a woman who's lived a life of luxury. She drove her in submarine, but at some point we have to ask ourselves again, are these people really the people that we think they are? Like, is the person that's inside of that jail cell, is that really Ghislaine Maxwell? I don't know. And who really knows? Who knows? Just like, who is that guy, who's the stand-in for Jeffrey Epstein? And what are we dealing with all these false flags and all these people that seem to pop in and pop out of nowhere and then never to be seen again? I mean, really what's going on with reality in a lot of ways. And so we have to ask the same questions about Ghislaine Maxwell, especially with this Gemini rising and this Venus in Gemini in the 1st house. Who's the Ghislaine Maxwell that's making the deal? I mean, I think these are important questions. So this is the deal that's been made. And now she is in this, holding cell that we think she is, or we think it's the she that is there, right? But I think it's at the very least, it's a very interesting development, and somebody is using this moment in order to either put a period and an exclamation mark on this whole thing, or they're going to use it as a cudgel or an anvil or a wedge and then hammer somebody personally. Because again, you got to remember that those charges that are against Maxwell are for a very specific period of time. It's not the whole period. And you'll have people come out and they're saying right now that she was a beast, and some of the girls said she raped her and raped them. And look, this is a weird world, okay? This is the world ultimately that they want to, if they need to, remember this now, if they need to, they will burn down reality before that world is ever revealed. They will burn it all down. So now we're into the topic of the reset. Is the reset happening because, well, these scripters of reality feel like it's just a good thing to do, that people wake up during these cycles, the cycle that we're in? Or are they doing something more deliberate? Because now it's like, hold on a second now. The jig is up on us. They're understanding this whole blood thing and this adrenochrome thing and all these things that kind of go along with this. And they're kind of not letting up. Maybe in order for us to continue and maintain our power, we need to burn the whole thing down. And it just happens to coincide with the fact that the monetary system is broken and has been broken for a while. And then what they'll do is they'll use the social condition to pump it up and create all this division and strife and then turn us against each other, which is, I think, completely horrible. But I feel like that this is part of what's going on. And I think the coronavirus accomplishes many things, but it also accomplishes and runs deep cover for this whole other operation where they're trying to eliminate any kind of historical record. I mean, if they burn those, right? It's just like, what was going on in like Oklahoma City. Like they had all the documents and records from Waco at the Murrah building in Oklahoma City. And they blow it up and they burn it to the ground. And what about the documents in building 7? And what about the stuff that was in the World Trade Center? What do? They blow it up and burn it to the ground. So is this really kind of a bigger version of that? And have they weaponized different parts of society in order to fulfill this? And oh, by the way, can they run an Agenda 21 and have even more control after the whole thing is over? I think the answer to all those questions is yes. It's totally yes. She's just going through a Saturn return. That's interesting. I really think that's interesting that she's going through a Saturn return and Saturn retrograde, meaning that for her, that's interesting because it's getting very, very close to that, what is it? What degree is that? Shit, that's 28 degrees. It's like, okay, you got to go back and deal with, and this is all 9th house stuff too, right? That's adjudication. That's law. Saturn's the highest planet in her chart as well. Strangely unaspected. Look at that. But it's close to being a singleton, the minor aspect of Neptune, and that's about it. Right? So we got the semi-sextile to Neptune, and that's it. Saturn is home alone in the 9th house. This is somebody who has authority. She has a lot of authority, or she did, a lot of authority, power, and freedom. And she's got that part of fortune there as well. She has an inconjunct. Where's that inconjunct headed to? Is that Uranus? Where is it? Where's that inconjunct? 28. Yeah, she's got the inconjunct to Uranus. And then what's the semi-sextile? See, no, it's just the, sorry, my bad. Inconjunct with Uranus. There it is. That's the only thing right there. That is the only thing, the crazy inconjunct at zero Virgo. Really, really interesting. Really interesting. I mean, to me, that would be indicative of something happening to her in her life at a certain point in time that would be beyond her control. And maybe this is it. Maybe this Saturn is the Saturn retrograde is triggering this inconjunct. I mean, the other thing too is that the inconjunct in this position is quite odd because it's ingressing into the 5th house, and the 5th house is children, right? And we have Pluto right there in Virgo, also in the 5th house. And then we have Black Moon Lilith. Ooh, look at that. Black Moon Lilith, the dark mother, the super dark mother with the Pluto conjunction, 5th house, children. Wow. That's intense. That's very intense. Super intense. Yeah, there it is. Right there. She's the black mother. She is the shadowy mother. And Pluto being the ruler of the 8th house, right? That's all about spy stuff. And she's made a lot of money. She's made a lot of money, this woman. Pluto trying to the sun, 8th house, other people's money. But the in conjunct with Saturn, that's it right there. Because Saturn's a free radical. It's a free radical. We often see Saturn in oppositions with Chiron. That's not uncommon, by the way. But this is interesting. And it's a retrograde that comes in and hits that in conjunct. Isn't that interesting? And her own natal Saturn is retrograde. What a setup. What a setup. Something happened there. That's also her Uranus is conjunct Trump's ascendant. That's another thing. Trump's ascendant was that 20, I think it's 29. It's 28 or 29 Leo. So her Uranus is at zero work. So she's got a conjunction with Trump's ascendant. So I would say that this thing, I don't know. It's because when you look at the players, like there's a woman who is one of the attorneys from the Southern District of New York. What's her name? I forget her name now, but she actually went up against Roy Cohn when Roy Cohn was living in New York. So she's been around a long time. And, Roy Cohn and Donald Trump had that weird bond, very weird bond. And Roy Cohn was a despicable human. He was a despicable human. And he engaged in the very same thing that Ghislaine Maxwell engaged in, which was extortion and blackmail. He used to get politicians to have sex with kids. Same deal, man. This stuff has been going on for a very long time. Super, super long time. So it's interesting. We're going to find out more with what happens here, if of course she isn't Epsteined. But this is to me the nearly singleton aspect, where there's hardly any aspect, with the exception of this inconjunction Uranus, is a big deal, because she operated with freedom, freedom and authority. Impunity. She could do whatever she wanted. But that's not the case now. Something happened here. Something happened. There's a kryptonite moment. But again, we have to figure out, is this really who she is? Because Gemini in the ascendant, and then that sun in the 8th house, will the real Ghislaine Maxwell stand up? I'm not sure. And will this thing be a public trial? Will it ever get to trial? I mean, come on. Really? I don't think so. Can you imagine her? I mean, the only way it gets to trial, the only way this thing gets to trial is if she will testify against Donald Trump. That's the only way it gets to trial. Because here's what I think. I think they had the goods on Epstein the whole time. And they could have run Epstein right up a flagpole if they wanted to, but they didn't. And could it be like the bigger, catch the bigger fish? Well, I'm going to show you how close Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell is going to have Mars going through her 12th house soon. Oh, boy. Oh, Nelly. Better watch out for that. Because the 12th house is the big house, right? That's where prisons are and jails are. So that's not very far away. We're talking by what? Third week in August, Mars in her 12th house. Yeah. And then, again, by the time she gets out to the end of August, before it goes retrograde, Mars square Saturn. So if I was a betting man, and sometimes I am, I would bet that she does not make it through the end of August. I don't think she makes it. She's already said she's depressed. Mars going into her 12th house, 12th to the 8th, squaring Saturn. That's trouble, especially with Pluto here, right? Pluto is not quite conjuncting her natal Saturn, but guess what? Mars is going to square Pluto, and Mars is in her 8th house. So I don't think she'll ever take the stand. She may have a deposition or something, but I don't think she'll ever take. I don't think she makes it out of custody. I don't think she makes it out of custody. I'd be very surprised if she makes it out of custody. Very, very, very surprised. Okay, here we go. Yo, dude, I'm 60 years 6. Congratulations, Bill. Congratulations. I'll be joining you in one of those 6 numbers. in September. Yeah. One of those synth numbers in September. Very interesting. For me, shit, it's like weird. Everybody says, oh man, I just turned 60 and they'll freak out, right? 60 is cool. Apparently, everybody has a big birthday at 60 and they blow it out, right? They blow it out. And then at 61, it's like, I don't know, man. Now the slow, inexorable march to 70. And we really did it last year. So maybe I'll hold off on the big 6-0 this year. And I'll do it 2 years from now. All right, let's see. What do we got going in chat? Val says celebs shaking in their boots. Well, man, there's some shit happening. Masaki and I were talking about this a couple days ago. And who was it? Danny Masterson from that 70s show. He got busted. Ashton Kutcher, who was putting out his number just like Tom Hanks did. Like that guy's scared shitless. Ashton Kutcher is scared shitless. Okay. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, I think he comes from right around the same area that Boys Town is at. He's got that Midwest thing. Kutcher's got that Midwest thing. He's a Mason, by the way, if you don't know that. But yeah, so then you got Steve Bing, doing a concrete cannonball out of that office building, or what is it, his penthouse? I mean, I would say there's some shit going down in Hollywood. That is true. Ellen's off the air. They were like broadcasting she was going to go down. Oh, she's mean. She's mean. She treats people horribly. See, that's what they do. They're telling you that she's a bad person. And Ellen couldn't buy bad press. She could not buy bad press for a long time. She was the darling, right? But now it's like, oh my God, she's a mean person, treats the staff mean, studio audience mean. We're gonna rank her. We're gonna yank her. So yeah, there's shit going on in Hollywood. I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. And now we have Kanye running for president. Speaking of, I'm gonna get into that a little bit. I think it's interesting. Kutcher made his own bow down to his sister. He was putting it so weird. Kutcher's got a special needs brother too, if I'm not mistaken. Ellen gives me the willies. Oh, here comes right on cue. Masaki, Wilmer Valderrama, also known as Fez. Also, so that 70s show is like stinky, really stinky. I had a big blow for my 60th and moved out of U.S. all on my second Saturn return. There you go. The tales of the 60th birthday. Good women should be bowed down to. Seeker Spirit Vlog, you might have a point there. And then once they're bowed down to, they can bow back, so we can all have it kind of an equal proportion, which I think what the world is really striving for, but wrestling desperately with the notion of equality. Yeah. So where are the Me Too women, by the way? Where are all the Me Too warriors? I'll tell you who has said something, though. Rose McGowan has come out and said that Bill Clinton and who was it? The other guy. Oh, Prince Andrew. That Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew were all part of the Epstein experience. Okay, so Rose McGowan's at least consistent. Where's everybody else? Where's all the other Me Tooers who are, we got all these gals, right? Virginia Giuffre Roberts and what's the other one? Sarah Brady or whatever her name is. So they got all these girls from the Epstein world that are speaking out. Like, where are their pals? Where's Asia Argento when you really need her? In fact, where's Asia Argento, period, end of story. Talk about a disappearing act. Wow. So let's see. Masaki always got the good stuff. Steve Bing was a tweaker. For those of you out there who don't know, a tweaker is somebody who does methamphetamine. He says, let's see. Steve Bing was a tweaker. He's into weird shit. Bill Clinton's go-to guy in Hollywood. So what is the weird shit these people are into? Like, how weird does it really get? Because I've got a kind of, I've got a very plastic mind, and I could probably go into those places in my head. I'm a Scorpio rising, right? I could probably go there. But I bet even in my world and kind of my sort of theoretical, elasticity, I probably can't even begin to realize how weird it really is. But that's something, I think. That's something. And we got Jennifer Rubin is in the chat. Oh, we got never like her. I've seen her as an odd and dangerous person to be next to for something. Jennifer Rubin, who's our Hollywood connection, I think she understands some of this high level weird and strange. I bet she does. So yeah, Oprah. Well, yeah, we knew Oprah's been in the nest, in the den for a long time. So this shit is happening. It is going on. It is. So it really feels like we're living in parallel realities. All these realities, this loom of reality is kind of like folding in on itself in a lot of ways. It's really interesting to step back and think about it. If you didn't have to wear a fucking mask all the time. But even that is like, well, I don't wear a mask. I'm not wearing a mask. I made a decision not to wear a mask. And I've violated the mask line a number of times. And if I do wear a mask, it's for effect. It's just for effect. I want to do something. I want to have kind of a creative statement around it. But, but this is the challenge now. They got people masked off, and it's not good. It's really, really not good. And I thought, look, if they can get people, and I was at Kerrville the other night, 100% compliance in HEB on the mask. And I would say last night in Fredericksburg, maybe 98% compliance. If they can get people, that number of people to take a mask, do you really think that people are going to object to a vaccine? Yep. Wrap your head around that. Okay. So I think that there's something going on with the coronavirus as this kind of force multiplier across a number of different levels, but also running cover for the Epstein events. That's what I think. Because we started to run into this thing kind of right now. And the reason, like China had this, I think China did a deep fake on the coronavirus. I think they did a really deep fake on it, and then eliminated a lot of people that they didn't like and wanted out. That Wuhan area was an area that they were really getting volatile about the environment and just the crappy air. So they were making noise in Wuhan, and they wanted them out. There's this other thing that I've been reading, and I'm not sure where I am with this, but China has its own version of like a deep state. Like there's a guy inside of China that is a threat to Xi. And this is a really interesting dynamic. And maybe I'll try to go over this sometime during the week. But there's a whole other kind of story. Like Xi's got his own thing going on with this other guy. He's like a colonel or something who seems to be running a version of a coup inside of the Xi government. So I'm going to try to do some work on that this week with 15 Minutes of Flame. But I think a lot of the Chinese stuff was a deep fake. They took out a lot of people that were going to were or are dissidents. And then what happened here is that the left just jumped right on board with everything. Was that part of the plan? Well, we're going to go left foot first, right foot next, right? Is that what was happening? They jumped right in, just like state by state by state by state by state. And then they began to just completely topple those economies. And not only the economies, but the will of the people. And if you look at what happened in Seattle, and this whole thing with Chaz and Chop is brutal. By the way, have you seen the event with the car on highway? Like, what the fuck are these people doing on a freeway protesting? I mean, come on, please. That is no place for you to be protesting. I get it, right? But there's a thing called civil disobedience, right? That is not civil. That is passively aggressive. Okay, that is passively aggressive, and you're getting in the way of people that have nothing to do with the thing that you're actually protesting. So if you're protesting the inequities of the system between so-called white race and so-called black race, lining up on high five is really not the place to do it. Okay, if you want to go do it, go to Jenny Durkin's office. Okay, go there, or go to some other place inside of Seattle, or go to the Capitol, go to Olympia. Go there, go start an autonomous zone, on the lawn of the Capitol, Olympia. But you're basically getting in the way people want to do their work, and they have nothing to do with what you're protesting. Now, the guy that hit these two women, this is a trip now. So this guy I think he's Eritrean, and he looks in a weird way like Nipsey Hussle. I'm not saying he's Nipsey Hussle, but because we're dealing with Gemini, he looks a little bit like Nipsey Hussle. So do we really think that Nipsey Hussle actually? I really question if these people die. To be very honest, it's like, did they really die? I don't know. I mean, in spirit, I guess a lot of people cried for them. Like, even though I predicted David Bowie's death, I still have my doubts that he died. But he's not here. He's not here. He's gone. So in our minds, he's dead, right? But I'm not sure if these people really died. But I'm not saying this guy is Nipsey Hussle, but he looks a lot like Nipsey Hussle. Here, I'll show you a picture of him. It's a weird picture too. It's like from some like weird online investment. Like, this is the guy, right? And maybe this is even Nipsey Hussle. I don't know, man. This is really weird. Really, really weird. Because there's Hussle. This was on his investment page. This is very strange. Very, very strange. And then Crenshaw is where Nipsey Hussle, I think he was in Crenshaw, right? And this is on this guy, I'm going to show you his page. Let me see if I can find it. And I'll show you a picture of the guy. His name is Dawit, if I'm not mistaken. Now, he doesn't really, now both he and Nipsey Hussle, I believe, are Eritrean, if I'm not mistaken. So here he is. This is the guy that hit the two women who were protesting, one of whom died. Okay. And if you've seen the video, I don't know. Again, was that like I don't know, man. These bodies are flying way up in the air. It's like bowling pins. It's bizarre. Here's another picture of him. Now that's Nipsey Hussle. Dude, they look so much alike. See if I can find another one. All right, here's another one. Now this one, he actually looks like Nipsey Hussle. I can say one thing. He certainly had a way with the ladies. I guess that was until last night. So here he is again. Supposedly went to University of Washington. Dawit Khalid. He's the Jaguar owner. So this guy's in a white Jaguar. He's in a white Jaguar. It's not a white Bronco, but a white Jaguar. And he just takes out these two gals. One's dead and one is in critical condition. And he was going the wrong way on the freeway, which is, So he's got a little bit of a Nipsey Hussle thing going on there. Now, I'm not saying they're the same guy, because there's a record of this guy going to the University of Washington. No, Washington State. I think he plays like intramural soccer or some shit like that there. I don't know. But man, so the weird thing about this is that the mainstream media will not tell you what his ethnicity is. Like they wanted this guy to be so white, but unfortunately he's not. So CNN is not really telling you the driver, the operator of the vehicle. They are not getting personal on this thing at all, because it blows up their narrative. Okay. It just blows up their narrative, because theoretically all these racist white people going out and hitting these poor gals who are protesting in a freeway where they really shouldn't be protesting, in my opinion. Like if you're gonna protest on a freeway, if you're gonna take your life if you're gonna put your life on the line, you better may as well make it a really big fucking deal. Like if your kid needed a kidney, like I would get out in the freeway and I'd protest. If he was waiting on a kidney for 2 years or a year and a half, I would get out and I'd get out on the freeway and I'd fucking protest. That's what I would do. You better make it count. If you're gonna risk your life on a freeway, make it count. So, at the end of the day, Like, are the people that, theoretically love these people, or they're going to say, oh, wow, she went out, at least she died believing in her cause or whatever. Like, would that really like have those people like pump the brakes on their so-called movement just for a moment? I mean, think about that. Or were they just going to double down and sell it? Well, damn it, she did it for the cause. She went out, she took one for the cause. She died for the cause. Is that real? I mean, and look, sometimes you got to spin shit like that. Like, in order for life to make sense, sometimes you got to spin shit like that, even if it's a lie, at least for a time being, till you get over it. Then you step back and go, you know what? I don't believe that anymore. This is really fucked up. She died needlessly. She died needlessly. Now, maybe Seattle will make a statue for one of these gals. Maybe they'll replace one of the people that have been taken down with one of them. Could happen. Could happen. What about the 18-year-old kid that got killed in Chaz? Maybe they can make a statue out of him too. I don't think that's going to happen. So there you go. There's more high strange. I saw some stuff on this guy, this Dawit Khalid, that he was like connected to NSAID, the CIA. Like he's got like these weird connections. We're in the time of Gemini. We're going to get some weird Gemini shit, right? Like Kanye West. I can't wait to talk about him. So this is an interesting individual. I'm going to try to find out more information, but he's driving a Jaguar. Like he wasn't driving a piece of shit truck or anything like that. He wasn't driving a Ford Taurus. He's driving a Jaguar. That is a car, theoretically, if it's a newer one. It looked like it was newer, by the way. It's like, where does that guy get that money? Where does he get that money from? I saw his investment portfolio, a little bit of it. It's not that impressive. I think I'm going to. I was going to play the video. I'm going to skip the video. I'm definitely going to skip the video. I found this naked picture of Bill Clinton. Do you guys want to see it? It's semi-naked. Do you guys want to see it? I stumbled across this thing. Have you guys seen it? Do you guys want to see it? Oh, shit. Taking out protesters. Can you imagine if they had been hit by a guy? Yeah, absolutely. Imagine. Do you guys want to see the Clinton picture? Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Laugh out loud. No. Laugh out loud. Not really. Of course. No. Can't unsee. What's it going to be? Okay. This is not consensus. I'm going to give you 10 more seconds to vote. The purple one's in. Only 1967 portal people can say summer or love. All right. You got 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's not terrible. What do we got? Let me just see. All right. I'm going now. Hold on. What do we got here? Hold on. Okay. I'm going to vote. This is all votes. You can't vote twice, by the way. You can't vote twice. Okay. One for Darcy. No. And then we got one for S for the 9. That's 1-1, 2-1, 2-1, 2-2, 3-2, 4-2, 5-2, 6-2, 7-2, 8-2. Darcy, you can't vote twice. 9-2, 9-3, 10-3, 11-3, 11-4, 12-4, 13-4, 13-4, 14-4, 15-4. Joan, you can't vote twice. 16-4. DK, 16-5. 17-5. Look, this is 17. Okay, so this is. I'm sorry. The yeses win. We are not Chaz. This is not consensus. All right. By the way, it's not with a minor. I would not show a picture of the minor. Just remember that. All right, where is it? Is this it? Yep. That's it. All right, here he is. There he is. Where is this thing? All right, here it is. All right, ready? Here it is. All right, listen, if you don't want to see the picture, just close your eyes. Close your eyes now. Okay? Close your eyes now. Close them now. And I'm going to tell you when to open your eyes, okay? Just close your eyes now. Okay, here we go. Eyes closed. All right, there we go. Oh, yeah. Okay, so he's got the remote in his hand. Keep your eyes closed. He's got the remote in his hand. Oh, my God. I think this is legit, by the way. I think it's legit. He's getting a little back rub there. I think this is the Al Gore treatment. This is what Al Gore was looking for. All right, there you go. There it is. It's not that scandalous, is it? I don't think it's that scandalous. But you can open your eyes now. See, I gave you guys cover. I gave you cover. All right. See, I am sensitive to your needs. Oh, you saw that before. There you go. Can't say really. I said a naked picture. I didn't say it was incriminating. I just said naked picture. That's all. That's all. All right. So let's get into where did I find that? I have my ways. It's not bad. It's just I said you want to see a naked picture of Bill Clinton. That's it. Yes. Might be the strangest man to walk the planet, Mr. Clinton. Maybe. Pretty strange. There are a lot of those guys are really fucking strange. He has very good posture. That's good. It's all over IG. There you go. You can find it on Instagram. Okay. Let's talk about this Kanye West thing. Man, this Kanye West thing is a trip, right? It's a total trip, but not something. Who else do I want to put in there? We didn't see the front. I'm going to put Harry. Good Witchy says, Harry back. Laugh out loud. Now be careful now. He may not be the only one that has a hairy back. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. We got some new comments there. You guys are fun. It's a good group. Okay. Whose side is he on? He won't take votes for Trump. Oh, well, I think he splits the Democrat vote. Biden is weirder. Yeah, I mean, even if these are the same guys, I'm not even sure if they're the same guys anymore. I'm not even sure if they're the same humans at this point. But yeah, I would say from the most current edition, Biden is definitely weirder at this point. Definitely. Kanye for president got Robert Rich to do an FB Live. Not happy. Robert Reich. Oh, Robert Reich. Really? Robert Reich's he's a little weasel. He's a weasel. But he appeals to the Dems. You know, what would happen if it's like something crazy if Kanye West actually became president of the United States? That would be like crazy, right? Biden plus Kanye pop, the dream ticket. That would be crazy. What would the world be like if Kanye became president of the United States? It might be interesting. He might fulfill the Antichrist prophecy, or maybe not. Who knows? But it would definitely be interesting. I would rather have Kanye for president than Joe Biden, and then we wouldn't even be close. Would not even be close. Kim Kardashian, first lady. You know, Trump has been working with those guys a lot. He's been working with the Kardashians a lot with this prison reform thing. I think this is a Trump inside move. Musk is off planet. Kanye's helping Trump. Yes, I agree. I think it's an inside Trump move on Trump's part, and brilliant. It's brilliant. If it keeps him out of the studio for years, then it's worth the vote. Oh, Sigurd. Whoa. That is a burn on Kanye. Compared to today's rap game, come on now. Kanye's like Jimi Hendrix. Well, I don't know. Maybe he's lost his fastball. I don't know. He was good at one point. All right, let's look at some other stuff. I wanted to put Kanye's chart up here because I got it. Where is he? And I got a Kanye Trump synastry chart too. which is worth looking at. So there he is. This is Mr. West's chart. Natal chart and transit. He's got a 12th house sun, which I find very interesting, but not how do I don't find it out of place though, because we know that he actually wound up having a near-death experience. We know that, right? That's what his first album was about. Like, he came out of this near-death thing. It was a high school graduation. Wasn't that his first record? It's a very 12th house kind of reality, a near-death experience. And he also got taken off the stage in Sacramento and spent some time in a 12th house institution known as an asylum, right? I think it was at Cedars-Sinai. Didn't he get the shock treatment there? That's what it feels like. So he's really a 12th house person. And, you know, look, I think Kanye is, this is Kanye, a sensitive guy. He's got that Cancer rising. Cancer rising. True Note is going through his 12th house. Now, it won't be on his sun by the time the election rolls around. Now, this is going to be during the springtime, where he's going to have a nodal conjunction with the sun. And that will certainly be an interesting time for Mr. Kanye West, personally. But, you know, there's a high degree of sensitivity. And I remember there was a time where he was very moody. He doesn't seem that moody anymore. He's more into this weird religious trip, you know, versus being pissed off and angry at photographers all the time. Is a conversion experience in here? Can we see like what was going on with like his conversion experience? Where would that be taking place? Let me just look at this thing. He's had Neptune around his moon. I think that might have been his conversion experience. Moon in Pisces, 9th house. He's had Neptune conjunct his moon for the last 2 years, squaring his sun and squaring Neptune. That's a major, major transit. That's a really significant transit. And especially with the square to Jupiter in Gemini. And, you know, he was born in 1977, and he fits right into that period where Neptune was in Sagittarius, exalted. And again, you know, this is a period of time where Mr. Kanye West is Gen X. Kanye West is not a millennial. He's a Gen Xer. This is a total Gen X birth chart. And he does have that access to that Neptune and Sag, right? And then that trine to Saturn in Leo at 12 degrees. Now, let me think about this. If I'm not mistaken, Kanye's Saturn is on Trump's Pluto. I'm pretty sure that's the case. We're going to find that out. We're definitely going to find that out. But Kanye is still in a chrysalis phase. His ascent won't begin to take place until the spring of next year, right around his birthday, by the way. That'll be an interesting time. And then he's got a rocket ride to the top of his chart. And really, he should be a 4th house person. You know, he's got Mars, Venus, Chiron, all in Taurus. And what did I say about the generation that's Chiron and Taurus? These are people that have a very hard time being in a body. You have Chiron and Taurus, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Right there. And the relationship with Kim, I think, grounds him. Whatever you think about that relationship, if it's real, not real, bizarre, ritualistic, whatever, it grounds him. Like, how many guys has Kim Kardashian been with? Right? A lot. But she's been with Kanye pretty consistently since they got together. And did Kanye escape the Kardashian curse? I'm not so sure he did, by the way. You know, I think him and Lamar Odom went through that Kardashian curse and came out of it on the other side as very different people. But yeah, so he's got that Chiron and Taurus, making it very hard for him and, you know, a lot of people that are Chiron Taurus to really be in their bodies. And I've seen this, you know, with this sort of chirotic affliction, which happens right around this time, you know, right around 1973, 74, going out for about 7 years until like early 80s. People who have Chiron and Taurus, and I've said this before, have things like eating disorders rather, hard times with their body, hard times with intimacy, hard times grounding, don't like to be touched. It's a very interesting aspect. And for him, it's quite challenging with the square to Saturn. And then, of course, we always have the omnipresent opposition with Uranus. But I do think this Kardashian relationship probably grounds him. Should he be a public person? That is the question. And with the South Node in the 10th house, I would say the answer to that would be no. And that really, if he's going to be in public, it is going to be predicated upon his partnerships. Because he has that Venus-Mars conjunction, which I've talked about. Very rare conjunction, makes the individual charismatic. But they need other people. And sometimes they don't get other people. We're going to look at Jeffrey Epstein's chart. Same thing. Venus-Mars conjunction, exact. Greta Thunberg, Venus-Mars conjunction, close to being exact. And she does need other people. She needs other people to function. Whether it's her mother, like when she was crying for her mother and she wouldn't eat the food, basically having a temper tantrum for her mother to come home from her big singing tour to feed her, right? So he needs somebody. He needs another person. So for a long time, he was like kind of connected with Jay-Z. So the Jay-Z Kanye thing, but they're opposite signs. The Jay's a Sag, Kanye's a Gemini. So we got rivalry here, a little bit of rivalry. But they were partners, right? They were doing stuff. And he tends to like to work with people. So he can be public if it's in collaboration. But by and large, this would not be, to me, when I see like his South Node in Aries right there, that's when he was on that like fundraiser for Katrina and had that very awkward moment where he called George Bush a racist. Like, he was way ahead of the curve on that. Right? He was like, when was Katrina? So that was like what, 2003 or something like that, 2004, 2005. I think it's 2005. So he was way ahead he was about 15 years ahead of his time. Boy, wouldn't it be interesting if people went back and looked at Katrina and George Bush and all the shit that happened in New Orleans? You think there'd be some retrograde hate for George W. Bush? I wonder why that hasn't taken place. Just curious. Very curious. Mercury, he's got Mercury right there on Algol. Ooh, look at that. An unaspected Mercury. Here we go. We got a true singleton here. We got, what is that? The sesquisquadrate to Pluto, a minor. But sometimes when you have a singleton, and again, a singleton is when there's no other planets really connecting with it. A minor aspect like that can be really intense and very powerful. And the sesquisquadrate is connected to things that have a relation to things you hear from your family, which is kind of interesting because Pluto's in the 4th house here, the house of the mother. And of course, Kanye West's mother died. And back then, man, there are all these people that were doing work around the blood sacrifices in the hip hop world. There's tons, I don't know if they're still there, but there's tons of these great videos with the blood sacrifices of the hip hop world. And, Kanye, the connection and relationship between Kanye and his mother comes up in those videos. And then here we have Mercury in conjunct Pluto, right? I'm sorry, the sesquisquadrate, and Pluto in the 4th, the house of the mother. Very intense. But even with that, there's a brilliance with Mercury when it stands out like that. But again, with a singleton, sometimes people don't really get it, or they don't really see it. And sometimes I've accused Kanye of being really, really self-indulgent. But I do think he's very, very bright. I do think he's bright. Whoever this Kanye version is, and I don't know who this version is. This 2.0 or 3.0. Lots of action going on in his 7th house, partnering, making deals. And then Mars being very active in his 10th house. Okay, so here's where I'm kind of going to go with this, right? I think Kanye needs to be careful. I really do. I think he needs to be careful with Mars coming up on his South Node in Aries. Are you kidding me? He's got to be careful. And with this Mercury conjunct Algol, man, that's another aspect that I would be, kind of wary of. At least maybe not now, but when where is that? I'd be more concerned when Saturn goes through his 8th house and starts to square his Mercury, but that's not going to be for a while. But I would definitely be concerned here. Yeah, it's interesting because he says, I'm going to become president or want to run for president. That's very aggressive, very Mars-like. Throwing his hat into the ring. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. And he's going to have a conjunction with his sun in the ascendant not too long from now. So we have the sun at 13, so 4 days from now. So by next weekend, Kanye is going to be front and center with that sun on his ascendant. And then in the first house. Interesting chart for sure. Very interesting. Especially the Pluto-Jupiter trine, Pluto-Sun trine. Like, this is money. This is wealth. And the ability to take something that's kind of lightweight, which sometimes Libra and Gemini can be, and to make it more profound. Because I've often thought that about Kanye, that to me, he's always felt a little lightweight, but he has this ability to make it sound profound. Maybe not with his rhymes, but sometimes when he talks. So I was like, okay, you're making a point. I get your point. I understand your point. I had that point probably about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but I get it. You're getting it. And it's having kind of an impact, and it makes it sound a bit profound. So this is actually really, and it's great for resources. Very good for collaboration. And I think fatherhood, again, if this is whatever version of Kanye, I think fatherhood is good for him. Saturn and Leo, grounding the whole experience. And he's got a really interesting trine with Saturn. So the Saturn square that he was going through with Neptune on his moon and the Neptune square, I think to me that was like that to me was the conversion moment. Whatever he went through with this whole Black Jesus thing, like, it's the Neptune conjunction with his moon, higher consciousness, 9th house, and then the square to his natal Neptune in Sagittarius. And he's got Neptune creeping up to his midheaven. Let's hope he sticks around long enough. I want to see that. I want to see Neptune on Kanye West midheaven. I'm looking forward to that. All right. So it wouldn't be a complete Kanye West breakdown without bringing Trump into the discussion. He bought in. Kanye sold out. I don't even know if it's him. How do you mean sell out? Well, this is an interesting question. It's an interesting question. What does it mean to sell out? Would not selling out be like, I don't know, Black Lives Matter? Would that be not selling out? Would that be selling out in a different kind of way? Right? Would it be selling out in a different kind of way? He basically, what I heard from him is he's trying to get people to think independently. And that, by the way, that was before he went into the shock treatment program at Cedars-Sinai. Don't underestimate that, by the way, because when he came out of that, I mean, he could barely complete a sentence. And he was trying to get people to think for themselves. That's what he was trying to do. When you go back and watch that video of him in Sacramento, it's very clear. It's very clear what he's trying to do. He's trying to get people, and that was at great cost to his career, because he had a lot of momentum. He had a lot of street cred, a lot of brand, and he was cutting against the brand. And I thought that time in Sacramento, he was authentic. I think he was authentic on that stage. I thought that was that ability for Pluto to be profound in his chart, And then after that, man, he went to the shock corridor at Cedars-Sinai, and I don't know who this guy is. I really don't. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that's him, and he went through this religious conversion with the Neptune conjunction of the moon and the square to Neptune. Why not? Let's see what he looks like with Trump. To the card game, baby. Let's see. Who is this? Hey, Astrology with Heather in the house. What's going on? Good to see you, Heather. What else we got? Why is Neptune on midheaven interesting? Because it's, Neptune on the midheaven, I think, is incredibly profound and very creative. It's like a gateway. The midheaven to me is like the crown chakra of the chart. So when transiting Neptune is on the midheaven, the individual has the potential of having like really interesting contact with higher forces in their life. And if you have midheaven on your Neptune on your natal midheaven, it means that you're somebody who can be kind of lost or a wanderer, maybe not fitting in. But I guarantee you, if you have Neptune on your midheaven, you're very creative, you're very spiritual, highly, highly spiritual. And one of my big, most visited posts on my site gets into this, where I looked at people who have Neptune on the midheaven or Pisces on the midheaven. They have a very specific kind of mission in life, which is otherworldly, and they have to have faith in order to finish that mission. And shit, the world's going to be interesting in Neptune and Aries anyway. It's going to be really interesting. It's been messy with Neptune and Pisces, way messy. I'm going to get into a little bit of that. He could die with Neptune on the midheaven. He could possibly. I would see probably maybe more of that on the south node. But I'm telling you right now, with Mars going through his 12th house, squaring Pluto in his 8th and squaring Saturn in his 8th, like that's a heavy transit right there. That's a very, very heavy transit. Yes. Heather, you missed the naked Bill Clinton photo. But I'm fully clothed tonight. Let's see. My daughter has this natal in Aquarius natally. So your daughter has Neptune and Aquarius on the midheaven. That's visionary. That's very visionary. That's profound, actually. That's a. Here, I'm going to put Heather on there. Heather, I'm putting you right on there. There she is. Damn, haha. I'll have to rewatch this later. That sounds like fun. It was a fun moment. She's an opera singer. She's inspired. Look at that. We got a Neptune midheaven person. That's it. It's inspirational, right? You deal with Neptune on the midheaven, and you're dealing with the muses and really, really high levels of inspiration, super high levels. I'm not going to take off my shirt. I did that. When was that? Last Friday. And people were shocked. If I took off my shirt now, you'd be blinded by my pale skin. You don't want that. It would be such a stark contrast to the light. Trust me, you don't want that. Glad you're wearing clothes tonight. Yeah, the bare minimum, by the way. Okay, let's do a little Trump and Kanye, and then I'm gonna get out of here. Because I think this is I do kind of want to look at the United States chart, which I teed up. But let's look at Trump Kanye. What did she say? She said, I remember your naked live stream with the top hat when COVID set in. I have an interesting story I should tell. I was gonna hold off on this, but I'm gonna tell the story. Okay. Okay. So I had a conversation with my kid a little while ago, and he saw my naked show. Okay. And he thought it was funny. I said, "Oh, you saw it? Did you think it was funny?" He said, "Yeah, I did. I thought it was funny." So then I'm like, okay, well, he's watching my show. I mean, this is kind of interesting. So I thought he might have been in my chat room about a week ago. So I asked him, "Hey, were you in my chat room?" And he said, "No." So somebody said, "Hi, Dad." And he said, "Oh, I think that was one of my friends." I'm like, "What? What? That was one of your friends?" "Oh, I want to hear more about this." So he says, "Yeah, my friends watch your show." I'm like, "Wow, this is a trip, right? This is really a trip." So, well, how did that happen? I'm gonna spare the details about how it happened. The details are not important. But one time, he came into a party at his friend's house, and apparently he heard me on his friend's computer. Okay, like that must have just been so freaking weird. And he walked in and he saw me on his friend's computer. So I know who you are. Thank you for watching, by the way. I hope you enjoy the content. And I hope your friends enjoy the content too. So this is kind of interesting. Like I'm connecting in a roundabout way with another generation. It's a trip. My friend from 6th grade watches your shows. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. All right, so let's do a little Kanye. And I like putting these comments up here. What if I don't have anything in my 10th house? Well, you're not burdened. You're not burdened with trying to find your way in the world. Like in the big picture of things, you don't have to do it. You could take that kind of off in this lifetime, unless, of course, you have a major transit going through there, in which case you have to pay attention. But I'm sure you have planets in other parts of your chart. And by the way, it's not all cracked up. Like being in the world, the 10th house, it's not all what's cracked up to be. There could be a lot of pressure, right? There could be a lot of pressure having planets up there, But if you accept it, it's the way it is. And that's the chart. Let's see. I have North Node in the 10th. Well, you're supposed to be in your 10th house. You got to get out into your 10th house. You've got to bring something to the world at large, whatever that is, right? That's how you do it. Okay. Let's look at the Trump chart. Then we're getting the U.S. chart, and we're going to call it a night because my mom goes to bed early, and she's cutting out of here in a couple of days. So I want to spend some more time with her. All right, so check this out, right? This is the Trump Kanye chart. I have Neptune conjunct my ascendant. The Neptune ascendant conjunction natally is one of the more difficult aspects in astrology. Great payoff if you can figure that out and understand it and surrender to it. And that's the key. Okay, let's get into this. So here we go. What did I say? He's got Saturn right on Trump's Pluto. And not only that, but he also has Vesta on Trump's Pluto. Guess who else has something over here? Jared Kushner, true node in Leo on Trump's Pluto. So we have a 12th house connection here between Kanye West and Donald Trump. And I was trying to understand if Kanye is playing the role of a teacher here with Saturn on his Pluto. It could be. Like, there could be something that Donald Trump can learn from Kanye West. Believe it or not. I think there can be. And a Saturn-Pluto conjunction is a contract, especially in the 12th house. And there is a hidden connection to them. There is more to Kanye West and Donald Trump than clearly meets the eye. Clearly meets the eye. Like when he showed up in Trump Tower, that was no accident. Like that was kind of a staged event, obviously. But there is something there between the two of them, for sure. Absolutely. And theoretically, Kanye would get power from Trump on some level, right? Because I think this is how Pluto in Trump's 12th house works, and also in a way that may not always be, how shall we say, favorable. People at Pluto in the 12th house have hidden pain and very dark secrets. So, I think maybe Kanye might play the role of a teacher here. And by the way, his Saturn trumps Jared Kushner's true node. Just saying. And I also think that Trump's Pluto could be a real power source for Kanye. And then second house, this is odd. I know about Kanye's mother. I don't know anything about his father. Could Trump play like a father role in some ways to Kanye? I mean, look where they are up here. Sun. Here's that Sun Jupiter conjunction. I mean, look, he is right there, like notch and groove with Trump as being a disruptor and a trickster. Look at that. Right there. Like two peas in a fucking pod. Right there. And Trump, guess what? His son is conjunct Kanye's in the 12th house. So they've got a lot. I would say that Trump and Kanye have a very interesting spiritual connection, and perhaps even slightly supernatural. This is a very interesting relationship. And I think they are partners. Here's Kanye's true node down here in Libra. Remember I said it was really good for him if he could be in partnership? Well, there's his true node in Libra. And what is it doing? It's in a wide conjunction with Trump's Jupiter and splitting the hairs, the midpoint between Trump's Neptune and Trump's Jupiter, and right on Trump's Juno. which I feel like Juno has a lot to do with innocence in some ways. This is a very interesting connection and a very interesting relationship, hitting in these 12th house zones for both of these guys. And also dealing with this idea of Libra and forming partnerships and alliances. This is very interesting. Very, very interesting. And I'm going to go even one step further here. And this may be perhaps even a bit of a stretch. But I think that Trump is actually healing for Kanye West with that Chiron Jupiter conjunction right there on his true node. I think he's kind of I think Trump understands things from Kanye's perspective, whether it's being a public figure or whether it's being a crazy Gemini. I think there's some legit synergy here between the two. I think there's legit. Now, could they get to I don't think they want to get into an argument. That's for damn sure, because of this Mars Mercury square. But Kanye's Mercury is right on Trump's midheaven, right on his midheaven. And what has he been? He's been a voice for Trump. He has been a voice for Trump. And there's that algal connection right there. Boom. I wonder if Kanye was operating the guillotine during the French Revolution when Trump lost his head. Question mark. And then here we have the moon in Pisces, Trump's 7th house, a little partnership action, a little partnership flavor there. And Trump's vertex right on Kanye's Black Moon Lilith. Do they know each other's secrets? Does this have to do with trust? This is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yep. Super interesting. And I think that there's definitely some synergy between these two guys. And it's right here, right? It's right here. 12th house connected. This is, to me, if you're going to talk past lives in astrology, I think you have to have a conversation about the 12th house. That's where I think it goes down, is the 12th house. And clearly there's a connection between the two of them. And what's also quite interesting is that their Black Moon Liliths are in opposite signs. Check that shit out. Wow. That in and of itself is kind of a major point of discussion. Holy smokes. The dark feminine in opposite signs. So they would kind of complete each other. This is a very interesting look at synastry between the two of them. Again, some conflicts with the moon, very, very different moons. Very different moons. But, with Kanye, his moon is in the 9th house, which is slightly mutually receptive to some degree because Trump has his moon in Sagittarius. And while it is not in the 11th house, which would be 12th house, which would be total mutual reception, there's something there, right? By position, by aspect. With the moon in the 9th, it takes on a bit of a Sagittarian kind of quality. I mean, look at who he married. He married a Kardashian. This is somebody from a different culture. She's Armenian. And Trump has had his share of women from other countries. So we think they're mostly women from other countries, right here in the 4th house. Very interesting synastry and synergy to boot. Well, these two guys are definitely working together. No doubt. They are working. Both come from heart. There has to be a sense of vulnerability, I think, with the 12th house. I think when you get into the 12th house, it's a house where people hide. But if you have strong connections with another person, that's a 12th house related connection, the boundaries really melt away. They just really melt away. And there are very few boundaries there. And quite often you can communicate without words or just hang out with each other. So when you say hard, I think there's something, and I feel like Trump plays a bit of a father figure role there. I think there's a father thing with Trump with Kanye. Boy, that's not what BLM would want to hear. Holy shit. Right? Co-presidents. Any reflection on the eclipse energy of last night in 4th Vents? Yes, I do. And it was good. I think we dodged a bullet. Although, however, there was a major fire happening in Gilroy, California, one night after the 4th of July. I think they're up to about 7 or 800 acres right now in Gilroy, California. And that's all farmland, by the way. You know, Gilroy is the garlic capital. It's not all farmland. I'm sure there's some homes there. So, yeah, there was a major fire. It took place a day after. I think the big event last night was what was happening in Georgia on the Stone Mountain area where NFAC went marching. I mean, they were full on eclipse moon, man. They had that eclipse moon energy, all dressed in black. You know, if you don't know NFAC, this is a separatist group. They're run by a guy by the name of, what is his name? Grandmaster Jay, some kind of martial arts guy. And he does a lot of stuff, these broadcasts on Instagram. And like I said, I've been on their Twitter feed. It's an intense Twitter feed. Let me tell you, man. I mean, you know, if these people have any intention about backing up their Twitter feed, like they're ambitious, okay? And they are clearly and very publicly ambitious about what they want to do. So, you know, I don't know too much more about that movement. I'm trying to kind of dig in a little bit more, but again, it's one of a number of these groups that have kind of a goal and a design to try to, you know, theoretically liberate themselves for whatever kind of bondage they believe that they're in. And this guy, Grandmaster Jay, believes that this is the end of a 400-year cycle. So there is going to be a new leader of the 12 tribes. And he believes that his group is going to be the new leader of the 12 tribes. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't really know. I don't know. But what I do know is that I feel like, again, this is just my opinion. Okay, this is just my opinion, that it's really easy to like kind of march on Cracker Barrel. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like they went out and they were looking for trouble and they were like calling out rednecks in Stone Mountain, Georgia. But I think that's easy. In fact, they even had cops like following them on their march. I think something like that would be a lot harder if they did it, say, right outside of Goldman Sachs. I think that'd be a little bit harder. Or let's say they wanted to do that in the Hamptons. A little bit harder, right? So I think in order for that to really, you know, rubber hit in the road, like that would be something that I'd like. That would be a pay-per-view event. That would be a total pay-per-view event. Let's see that happen, because I guarantee you, like nobody was gonna do anything last night, but it was definitely a very dark eclipse kind of moment where basically this armed army was challenging a group of people that lived in a particular area. Okay, to me, that's super eclipsy, right? But now and there was a lot of heavy duty fireworks and whatnot that shouldn't have gone off. So we did dodge those bullets. We did do that. But, you know, I would love to see a group like, see, that's what this is ultimately. Here's where I wanted to kind of take tonight's show. And I'll look at the US chart and then I got to get out of here. I think we're having growing pains. I think we're all having growing pains. I think all these different sectors of our culture are having growing pains. Some more than others. And I think that's the time that we're living in. And unfortunately, what's happened is that there is this fulcrum of race that's being used in order to sort of torque the system and use energy and power and momentum. And I believe it is a form of manipulation, psychic and spiritual manipulation, total psychic and spiritual manipulation. And there are people that are using that energy to guide, navigate, engineer, and marionette some of these groups. Not all these groups, but it's happening, right? And the reason it's happening is because in a lot of ways, the groups that are doing this, or the group or a group or two groups that are engaged in this kind of engineering manipulation, they understand that they're on a fine line of being found out. They're in a fine line of being found out. So what are they doing? They're creating havoc. They're creating chaos. They're running these events in order to get people really out of their skins and out of their minds and just doing shit that's completely inhuman to one another. And so they're turning us against one another. Or if we all just turned our gaze in one direction together, right, we'd be able to like take care of the problem pretty easily. And we wouldn't be at each other's throats. Because I think there's something there. You know, and it's kind of interesting because it's like you hear this thing about like there was this guy who was talking about he went in and he wrecked Chaz. He wrecked Chaz. You know the video, the dude wearing the red hoodie and the red shoes, and he totally wrecked Chaz. And he said, "Look, this is not my culture. This is not our culture. You know, this is somebody else is doing this." And you know, and you hear this refrain from a number of really super conscious individuals from the so-called Black community. They'll step back and go, this is not us. And even those NFAC guys, we know fucking Black Lives Matter. And that's what they said, right? So this is very interesting thing going on. But what we're seeing is we're seeing a group trying to come to grips with this idea of their own culture, which, by the way, I am totally supportive of. I am totally supportive of that. And this idea that we're all Americans and stuff, I think it's a really good idea. And it would be great if we could do that and be that together. And that's the organizing principle, you know. But I think that if there's a group that wants to understand their culture and define what their culture is, do it, right? Do it. Make it happen. But I have an issue when it's at the expense of another culture. That's just me or another person or another group. And you could change the groups around, right? It's like you go to communist China and they want to make sure that their Maoist culture stays intact. So what do? They eliminate Falun Gong. You know, so this thing happens all the time. You know, I used to spend a lot of time watching this guy, Judah 144. Like, he's a really switched on dude. I spent a lot of time watching this channel, and it was a truth channel for so-called Black men. And I think it's called Revelations Judah 144. Really good channel. And what he would talk about all the time, he's like, you know, we don't even know what the fuck our culture is, right? We got to find out what our culture is. And I'm like, man, this dude's got it. Like, he understands at a very deep level. And I think that he's a really profound teacher, actually. And I would show his material to people who would be liberal, and they could not handle it, man. They couldn't handle it. I wouldn't say he's a conservative either, but he's a very, very interesting guy. Chronicles of Judah 144. It's a very good channel. Very good channel, but it gets into this whole idea of culture. So I thought about it. It's like, okay, well, you know, this is a group that wants to kind of understand and evolve their culture. I got no problem with that. None. And I would encourage every culture to do that. Every culture needs to be able to do that. Unfortunately, you know, I happen to be the pigmentation of a culture that says, well, we want to find out what we're about. Oh, you can't do that shit. You can't do that shit. No, you can't do that. Because the minute we theoretically do that, you know, we got the ADL and the JDL and, you know, the NBDL, any DL, they're after us. They are after us. Can't do it, right? Can't do it. So even you know, so-called white culture, you know, it's like, well, who are we? You know, are we Trump MAGA Americans? Are we nuclear families? Are we Christmas holiday people? You know, I mean, really, who are we? You know, what is our culture? You know, at least the culture of this guy that I'm in this body. Because after I'm done with this body, I'm moving on. But I'm in this body now, so, you know, what the fuck? You know, I'm trying to understand this from this perspective, right? That was the theoretical splashdown choice. And then we could have the expanded view too. That's a whole other idea around this whole thing. And at that point, culture just doesn't even matter. You know, culture is one of these things that's, you know, sort of like you're in a car and you're zooming down the road and it's a little dot in the rear view mirror, right? When you get to a certain point, you know, you can have all your cultural signs and signifiers, but when you move to really expand it in high consciousness, this whole idea of culture is really a kind of a quaint notion. But I get it. I understand it. I totally understand it. And I think the challenge that we've had is, in a lot of ways, that the fabric of our society has been really corrupted, really corrupted. And the so-called law of the land or the rule of the land is poison and toxic. And look, if I was a so-called black person, I would be pissed off too on some levels, right? I would be kind of pissed off too, you know. But I'm going to tell you right now, you know, we have Mr. Balderson, Ben Balderson, who was on our show, so-called white guy, did 7 years for selling two was it half a pound of marijuana, right? Did 7 years time. Like that is an injustice system. And I don't care what color your skin is. Okay, that is an injustice system. And the problem with the justice system is that the people at a very high level seem to just skate. Like they're just skating like Oksana Bayul through the whole thing, right? And that's where the problems are. And that's where the tension is and has been fomenting for a very long time. And I'm not here to say that we need to redistribute the wealth, because that's a Band-Aid thing, right? The social Marxist thing is a Band-Aid thing. And that's a whole different discussion. It has nothing to do with that. Materialism is not the answer. That is gross materialism, and it's just a shell game. It's not the answer. The answer comes from a much different place. It comes from the human heart. There was a young gal, I think I was in either Nashville or Atlanta last night. She was shot, an 8-year-old kid shot during one of these protests. I mean, come on now. If that's not going to like wake you up and say, we're knocking at the wrong door here, if that's not going to wake you up, I'm not sure what is. A little 8-year-old girl lost her life because she was in the car at the wrong place at the wrong time. And this is not uncommon. Spend a weekend in Chicago. It happens all the time. And this is a hard time for the human race. It's a very hard time. And we've really, and I'm going to get a little preachy here, but we've really strayed from God. I'm not talking about God in the Christian Bible sense. We've just really strayed from God and prime creator and this wonderful, beautiful force that is really a part of our life and wants to make our lives better for ourselves and for other people and for the animals and plant kingdom. Look, we've strayed so far from this idea and concept. And, either through gross materialism or really swift and kind of hard judgment coming from, certain religious sources and forces, and through the parts of our society that want to separate and hack us and atomize our entire experience. And as a result of that, we go through, the university system and, we learn about dialectics and all this bullshit. And we forget some very fundamental things along the way, and that takes us right back to the beginning of the program where when you were a kid and you picked up that rock and you looked under the underbelly of the rock and you saw that rock and you saw the life that was teeming underneath that rock. It could have been sow bugs, could have been ants, maybe there was a salamander, and it was like, that was magic, right? And you were connected to a whole other world, and in a way that you understood but didn't understand at the same time. And we've strayed from that world. We really don't have that anymore. We've become so cynical and stressed out and blame oriented. There's always somebody to blame for our troubles. There's always somebody to blame for our condition. And when you wipe those people out, your condition will not be alleviated, maybe momentarily. Maybe you may do a river dance on their funeral pyre, right? But after that, after a short period of time, it is over. And the reality sets in, and that you're faced with who you are, and you're faced with the same person that you were before the so-called demons were theoretically exorcised from your life. And, you get to deal with it at that point. Then things get very real. Once you take away the so-called trouble for your experience. And by the way, you can do that, and it's important. If you're in a bad relationship, you got to deal with that relationship, and you've got to remove yourself, or you got to change the relationship. So these things are important and real. You don't have to blame. I'm going to tell you here. I like telling stories. This is somebody who, and I don't think they mind me sharing the story, but somebody who just relayed the story to me today about how they were helping out a friend, and when she was taking a truck to pick something up for the friend. And she found out that the place that she was taking the truck was the place that was somebody who was connected to her family. Connected to her family in a bad way. Like, this woman basically devastated this family. And I don't want to get into details. In fact, I don't really have them. But I know it was bad. And she hadn't seen this woman in a very long time. And talk about Trigger City. Holy shit, right? So what did she do? She spent some time with this thing. She forgave that woman. She forgave that. And I don't know the details, but it sounds really like generationally changing. And she forgave that woman. And she said that 1,000 pounds were lifted off of her. And then she went in and she moved into some other difficult relationships that she wanted to reconcile. And she used that energy in order to do that. You see, that's where we are. That's what we need more of. Because all this violence and all the shooting and all the stuff that is really just a hair's breadth away from a trigger being pulled in the wrong direction, the wrong person, and the whole shithouse could go up in flames again. Okay. So we have an opportunity to change that. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to lay down or roll over, because I don't think that's really the answer anyway. I think we need to stand. Everybody needs to stand, and we need to stand together. If you want to get on your knee after that together, that's a whole other thing, but it's got to be together. We need to stand together. And if there are people that are out there and they want to separate us from our loved ones or our property or whatever, then you got to do your damnedest to protect them. And I don't care what you have to do, because I am an advocate of that. I'm an advocate of that. So these are powerful, powerful times, very powerful times. And the quote unquote powers that be, and again, I don't want to get into who they are. That could be a whole different show. We could break that down. But the idea here is that they're running a program, and they're smashing us against one another. They're doing a bunch of stuff on the side that we're not aware of, like basically looting trillions of dollars out of the U.S. Treasury, during the first round of the COVID thing. There's a lot of stuff going on. And pawns of the game. And we need to raise ourselves up to take a different position on the chessboard of life. Okay, there we are. Let me just get into the chart of the U.S. real quickly, because somebody brought up the progress chart, and I wanted to look at that. I was playing with solar arcs for the U.S. chart. Maybe I'll do that next week. I'll bring in the solar arc next week. It'll be interesting. We'll get into solar arcs next week. We'll do a whole thing on solar arcs. There it is. I just got that one. Hold on. But I just wanted to look at the progress chart. See if I can find it. Is this it? No. There it is. I keep getting these solar arc charts. Fuck. This is not what I want, man. There it is. That's what I want. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. Who wants to be on the screen now? Let's see. What do we got? No knees. So Mr. West is president. I'll be all right with that. How long ago did I start? I started 2.5 hours ago. 2.5 hours ago. So now I have to leave because of the truth. We're going to put you right up there. You may leave, but your comment will remain there for perpetuity. Okay. DK. Dwell cool in the house. All right, I just wanted to take a peek at the U.S. progress chart. It's at 15 Pisces. So we're second decam Pisces, putting it Cancerian, right? So the U.S. is now Pisces sun. And we've had transiting Neptune rather, on the U.S. natal Pisces. And it's still around there. I mean, talk about fucking confusion. Holy shit. I mean, that's a lot of confusion. Neptune's starting to separate a little bit. I mean, let's hope it, when it gets a little ground, some of the confusion will be able to sort of abate slightly. So that means that the progress U.S. sun is in opposition with the natal Neptune in Virgo in the U.S. chart. And then also we have a Neptune opposition coming up here as well. I think the U.S. natal Neptune is what, at 20? it's a 21. It's not quite opposed yet. It's getting closer. 21 or 22. Anyway, so there we go. And then squaring Uranus, 7 degrees. So this is kind of funny. So, Trump and Kanye West planets are up in the U.S. 10th house, progressed U.S. 10th house. That's kind of interesting. Yeah. So Kanye, what was he? He was like 12. So his sun is in conjunction right there. His sun is in conjunction. A little bit of a wide conjunction with the progressed U.S. Uranus. So these are crazy times, right? Now the sun is finally separating, but still, these are nutso times with progressed Uranus in the 10th house in Gemini. We're getting full blown Gemini, and then Venus retrograded to what, right about there, 5 degrees. So now it's getting ready to move forward, and we're 5 degrees right there. My bad, right there. So now it's getting to move forward and hit Uranus. I bet it's very close there now. I wonder if that is indicative of the why doesn't like Trump kick Pence out and have Kanye as the VP? I would be so down with that. Pence is a Gemini too. It's like I would rather have Kanye as VP than Pence. The Kanye Trump ticket, make it happen. Make that shit happen. Anyway, there's Venus. We have the true node. Wow, right here, right? Doing some 10th house crazy stuff. And it's going to square off against the U.S. sun. That's going to be next spring, and the kind of mutable madness that's going to be taking place during that time. South node going right through here in the 4th house of the progressed U.S. chart. That's the home. 4th house is the home and law. Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that transit, to be honest. I'm a little concerned about that transit. Like, what is going to be going on with our homes? What is going to be the legal definition of home and property? Because we need in Sagittarius to get into legal definitions, right? I'm a little concerned about this transit, especially as it might qualify as, the transference of wealth. Or maybe even as it relates to a country like China, Sagittarius, correct? Right there. 4th house, owning paper on large parcels of land in this country. And by the way, China has economic free zones. I know some of you know that, but they actually have tax-free business zones in this country. It's not talked about very often. If you really wanted to upset the apple cart, you would pull those tax-free zones. Smithfield Meat is run by China. Isn't that interesting? They own Smithfield Pork. And I bet you that wherever Smithfield Pork is, it just happens to be an economic free zone as well. Let's see, what else do we have here? Here we have all of our Cancerian planets. 11th house, Jupiter progressed Cancer, true node progressed Cancer. So this idea of community is definitely a part of this chart. It is definitely Cancerian, but it is definitely stressed out too. You got this progressed Mars in Libra, which it looks like it's retrograde, and conjunct Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith. It's kind of an inversion of Black Lives Matter. Black Moon Lilith. Black Lilith. You could say Black Lilith Moon. It would still be BLM. And to me, Mars in Libra is the aspect of the social justice warrior. To me, Mars in Libra is SJW. Well, why? Well, because it is aggressive and it's trying to find balance and liberty and justice and all those kinds of Libra things. And Mars is the planet of the warrior, right? So Mars in Libra, you got Mars in Libra, by default, you're an SJW. Congratulations. No, I'm just fucking with you. Maybe some of you out there is an SJW go, yeah, that's me. This is what Ocasio-Cortez has. She's got Mars in Libra. She's the poster girl. Progressed Moon is going to be changing here pretty quickly, and it's going to go into Aquarius. How about that? That's going to be interesting. But before it does, it's going to hit this South Node. Yikes. Wow. Very interesting. So the eclipse moon that we had last night was kind of right around here on the U.S. progressed moon. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, how would I interpret that? This has something to do with kids. Keep your eye on coronavirus and kids. Right here. Keep your eye on coronavirus and kids. We've already seen a couple of instances where they've separated kids out from their parents due to coronavirus. And with this moon transits, and it will, in about 45 days, about 40 days, this moon is going to be moving. It's going to be moving 2 months, right? 2 months, this moon will be in the anaretic degree of Pluto right there and moving into Aquarius. This progressed moon transit is a big freaking transit. It's a big transit. Man. Wow. There's definitely some here with kids. Major. I'm going to say something. Gosh, should I say this? It's kind of heavy. It's definitely kind of heavy. And I'm wondering if this kind of plays, okay. So Celeste Solum, I talked about it before. Like, man, she's freaking dark. Now, some people are into her, some people aren't. Some people think she's still on the payroll. I don't know. But some of the stuff she said about kids under 18 and what they want to do with kids under 18 or 16 or whatever, it is not pretty. It is not pretty. So I'm seeing this progressed moon as a crisis for America's youth. Right here. Right there. And especially these kids who were born under Pluto and Capricorn. That generation. And with Neptune coming into the mix here and trine, right? It could be, I just have visions of like, orphan trains and the last reset. That's what it feels like. So it'd be very interesting. I mean, we've got another roughly a month and a half, 2 months before this moon transits into the final degrees. It's got 5 degrees in the progressed moon. I think that's 2 months out, if I'm not mistaken. 2 months out, doing the math in my head. Yeah. To me, this with the South Node in Sagittarius, which I have very, very trepidatious feelings about. And land rights, land ownership, things like that. And I think the crisis to America's children right here, the impending crisis. These are the aspects of this chart that I find a bit troublesome. That's just me. Yours truly, right here. All right, there we go. But it's going to get wacky. It's going to stay wacky with the true node in the progressed 10th house. Welcome to Gemini City. It's all about Gemini. The rest of the signs are just living in their world. It's a Gemini world. Okay, I think I'm out of here. They'll go back to school mid-August. There you go. Yeah, I don't have a good feeling about that. I don't have a good feeling about that for our children. That progressed moon on that South Node in Pluto, and then it progresses into Aquarius, which is again very group oriented and for the good of all and stuff like that. And the Aquarius moon is cool, but it's also cool, if you know what I mean. All right. I heard that as well. Kids of COVID, parents and welfare. Yeah, I think that's kind of part of the story. I think it's part of the story. Now, remember, when the last reset happened in the 1850s, the children and the orphans played a really big role in it. Really, really big role. Even up through the war, they were removing children from their parents during World War II, Operation Pied Piper, and taking them away, right? And resettling them in other places out of England, United States, Australia, New Zealand, all kinds of places. And as we know, history tends to repeat itself. All right. I'm out of here. I am out of here. Voter migration from blue to red states could guarantee. Yeah, fucking Greg Abbott, man. He became blue. He turned blue. Greg Abbott just held his breath forever and turned blue. All right, anybody else? All right, I'm out of here. I'll be back tomorrow morning. 15 minutes of flame. Let me just think about this. Am I going to be back tomorrow? I don't think so. I'll be back Tuesday. I actually have a client tomorrow morning. I got to catch up on some stuff. It's my last day with my mom here. So I'll be back on Tuesday. I'm just giving you a heads up. Okay. I'll be back Tuesday, 15 minutes of flame. Thank you, everybody, all 304 of you who are still here. God bless you. And everybody, right? Everybody. I'm just big, wide, macrocosmic blessing for everybody. Everybody that's in pain. Right? Everybody that's in pain. And even if you're like an evil motherfucker and you know that what you're doing is evil, somewhere inside you got some pain. You got some unresolved issues that you haven't dealt with. Even you. Right? The full embrace of the cosmic moment. All right. I'll be back on Tuesday. I'll see you later. Bye for now.